Alright, notes 1.3 measuring angles. First thing we're going to talk about is the angle addition postulate. So when we look at this, if point S is in the interior of angle PQR, then the measure of angle PQS plus the measure of angle SQR is going to equal the measure of angle PQR. So it's saying if we have an angle here, we have our angle, and we have angle PQR, and point S is on the inside. So here's S. It's saying that angle 1 plus angle 2 equals the entire thing. So angle PQS and angle SQR is going to equal angle PQR. So now when we look at a couple of these down here, so you don't have this picture in your notes, but we look at this picture, it's saying the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle D, this is going to equal 90 degrees. And these special pair of angles, they are called complementary angles. And now if you look at the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle 3, that's going to equal 200 degrees. Now this special pair of angles is called adjacent or reflex angles. Alright, they're next to each other. And then, but when we look at these side, this one over here, when we look at PQS, and then we look at angle SQR, what we notice is that these two form 180 degrees. Alright, and these special pair of angles, these are your supplementary angles. Supplementary angles. They form the 180 degrees. And if the endpoint of a ray falls on a line, we can also call the two angles a linear pair. A linear pair. So they're going to form that linear pair. So here's our endpoint of a ray, QS, ray QS, it falls on line PR, and these two angles are going to form a linear pair, and a linear pair is going to add up to be 180 degrees. Now if we look at, we have a couple angles up here, A, B, C, and D. Now the angle congruency postulate. It says if two angles have the same measure, then they are congruent. And if two angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. So when we look up here, we can discuss, well, which of these angles are congruent? Well, which ones have the same measures? Angles B and angles D. They're both 100 degrees. So which two angles are congruent? Angles B and angle D. We can say that angle B is congruent to angle D. Now, why is there algebra in my geometry? Well, if we look at this figure here, it says that the measure of CED is 39 degrees, and the measure of CEL is 3x minus 6, and the measure of LED is x plus 25. Well, what we know about this is that we know the measure of angle CEL plus the measure of angle LED is going to equal the measure of angle CED. So we know that this angle plus this angle equals the entire thing. Well, the measure of angle CEL, we have 3x minus 6, plus the measure of angle LED is x plus 25, and it's going to equal the measure of angle CED, which is 39. So now we have our equation, so we can solve our equation for x. We put our x together, so we get 4x plus 19 is equal to 39. We subtract 19 from both sides. We have 4x is equal to 20. Divide by 4. and x is equal to 5. So we know that x is equal to 5, and then it asks us the measure of angle CEL. Well, we plug 5 back in, so we have 3 times 5 minus 6. 15 minus 6 is 9 degrees. So the measure of CEL is 9 degrees. And if we look at the next one, in the figure at the right, the measure of DSF is 45 plus x. So DSF is 45 plus x, so we can add these two together. Well, if I add these two angles, I'm going to get 9x plus 5. So what I know is that these two angles here, so I have 9x plus 5 is going to equal 45 plus x. So we can solve for x, so we subtract x from both sides. 8x plus 5 equals 45. Subtract 5. 8x equals 40. And x is equal to 5. So once we know that x is equal to 5, we can figure out how big all of these are. So we can say that angle DSF, we plug in 5. So we have 5 times 5, 25 plus 4. DSE is 29 degrees. For this one, we plug in for ESF, so we have 4 times 5 plus 1, so it's 20 plus 1, so it's 21 degrees. And we know that 29 plus 21 is 50 degrees, and we can check to make sure we're right, so 45 plus 5 is 50 degrees. And looking at this next one, it says using this figure at the right, find the measures below. Well, what we know about these is that these form our linear pair, and these are supplementary angles, so they add up to be 180 degrees. So we can say that 6x minus 17 plus 11x plus 10 is going to equal 180 degrees. We combine our like terms, we get 17x minus 7 equals 180. 17x, we add 7 to both sides, equals 187. We divide by 17, x is going to equal 11. So we know that x equals 11, and we can plug in 11 for our values. So to find measure of ACB, we put 11 in here, so we have 6 times 11 minus 17. 66 minus 17 is going to give us 49 degrees. So ACB is 49 degrees. We plug in 11 here, so we have 11 times 11 plus 10, and that's 121 plus 10, which is 131 degrees. So 131 degrees for angle DCB. And then if we add these two, we should know that they're going to give us 180 degrees. And that is our notes on the angle addition postulate and our angle congruent postulate.